horrifying truth is this: the most ruthless killer crushing your mind is wearing your face. Haven't you suffered enough? Stay until the end, because the secret in this video is the cold, final move that helps you end its control for good. It's coxy, nolla r. M. The world around you is dead quiet. But inside your skull, it sounds like a war zone. Your phone screen throws that pale blue light across a drained, exhausted face. You shut your eyes, trying to turn your mind off, trying to force 1 second of peace, but the noise will not stop. A co-worker's smug little smile from earlier, a dry, lifeless text from someone you care about, a stranger's passing look that somehow felt loaded with judgment, tiny things, meaningless things, things that should have disappeared the second they happened. But they didn't. Now they are stuck in your head like a scratched tape, looping the same poisoned line over and over again. You curl up in bed. Your chest tightens. Your breathing turns shallow. And then the worst poison of all starts spreading through you. Self-disgust. Before we go any further, if you are exhausted from fighting your own mind and you have been desperate for something real to pull you out of that emotional swamp, subscribe to the channel right now and stay with me. Because this journey is not soft, and it is not pretty, but it is worth it. And your support helps us keep making the kind of videos that don't just comfort people for 5 minutes, but actually wake them up. Now let's tell the truth. You attack yourself in the dark. Why am I this sensitive? Why do I fall apart over things other people brush off in seconds? Why can they move on, laugh, sleep, live, while I lie here tearing my own soul apart over one stupid sentence? And slowly, bitterly, you come to a brutal conclusion. Something must be wrong with you. You tell yourself you are broken, defective, too fragile for this world, a cheap piece of glass that cracks from the slightest touch. A flawed human being who somehow missed the lesson everyone else learned. But stop right there. Stop that thought. I need you to hear me clearly right now. You are not broken. You were never weak. And this sensitivity that has been torturing you, the thing you have been treating like a curse, is not proof that something is wrong with you. It is not a disease. It is not shameful. It is not something you need to hide. I know that because I know this place. I know what it feels like to hit that emotional bottom. I know what it tastes like when tears hit at dawn and the room is silent and the pain feels embarrassing because nobody else can see it. I know what it feels like to replay tiny wounds until they turn into something massive. I know what it feels like to choke on the realization that you don't even know how to protect your own emotional boundaries. So tonight, we are going to do something brutal. We are going to flip the entire game. A violent shift in perspective. One that snaps the chains and permanently changes the way you stand in this world. Because all this time you have believed that other people hold the power to destroy your peace. You thought they had the final say. You thought the cruel ones out there were the ones stealing your calm, your worth, your stability. They are not. The terrifying truth is this. You have been holding the key the entire time, but instead of using it, you kept walking into the cage, locking the door yourself, and tossing the key to strangers. This video is not here to hand you some cheap, feel-good nonsense. I am not here to feed you empty positivity. I am not here to tell you to just forgive everyone, smile more, and think happy thoughts. Throw that trash away. We are here for something colder, sharper, more practical than that. We are here to take your power back. I am going to hand you one of the cleanest psychological weapons you can use. A form of mindful detachment, sharp enough to cut every filthy string the world has shoved into your mind. It is time to stop living like a soaked, shaking victim trapped in your own emotions. It is time to move like someone who belongs to themselves again. So take a deep breath. The real game starts now. And if you want that kind of freedom, then first you have to look straight at the black hole inside you that has been draining your life force for years. Let's dissect the way your emotional boundaries have been operating. Have you ever wondered why one careless look from someone else can hit you that hard? Why one cold text, one dismissive joke, one moment of indifference can feel like a blade sliding between your ribs? Here is the naked truth. That smirk, that rude little comment, that ignored message, that weird tone in someone's voice, those things by themselves are not nearly as powerful as they feel. On their own, they are just data. Small external events moving through space. They should come and go. But the moment those things hit the filter inside your mind, something toxic happens. The reason they hurt so deeply is not because the other person's words were magically powerful. It is because they touched a wound that was already there. That is the part most people never want to face. Other people do not always create new pain inside you. A lot of the time, they just touch an old bruise you were already hiding. That is why you react so strongly. Because somewhere deep down, a quiet voice inside you already agrees with the attack. Think about it. If some random stranger pointed at you and said, "You are a green tree," you would laugh. Why? Because it means nothing to you. There is no hook, no wound, no hidden agreement. But if someone says, "You are useless," and you collapse inside, that tells you something. It tells you there is already a part of you that has been secretly entertaining that idea. That is why it lands. That is why it echoes. That is why it stays. We live inside a collective hallucination where almost everyone is addicted to one thing: other people's approval. And without even realizing it, you may have turned yourself into an emotional beggar. Knocking on doors, reading faces, studying tones, waiting for little scraps of attention, acceptance, and respect. When people smile at you, you feel valuable. When they go cold, you feel disposable. When they praise you, you feel safe. When they pull away, you feel like trash. Do you see what happened? You handed the remote control of your inner life to people who can barely manage their own. The coworker judging you, the bitter person online, the friend projecting their mood onto you, the stranger who treats you like you are small. Half the time, they are not speaking from truth at all. They are leaking their own pain, their own insecurity, their own envy, their own chaos. They use you as a temporary target so they do not have to sit with themselves. And then you do something tragic. You pick up that psychological garbage, press it against your chest, and call it truth. You let their confusion become your identity. Wake up. Your insecurity did not come from one moment. It came from betraying yourself over and over again just to fit standards that were never even real. You have been terrified of being rejected, left out, misunderstood, or seen as not enough. That ancient fear of exile, that primitive terror of not belonging, is still living inside the nervous system, and it makes you easy to control. It turns you into a puppet. One look, and you shrink. One comment, and you spiral. One shift in someone's energy, and your whole nervous system starts begging for answers. But the power they seem to have over you is not absolute power. It is an illusion, a performance, a role you unknowingly helped write. The moment you see that clearly, the spell begins to break. And when that illusion finally cracks, you are left face to face with the real killer that has been hiding in your house the whole time. If the outside world is just the spark, then the explosives have been sitting inside your own mind all along. And that explosive device has a name: your inner critic. Let's be honest. Nobody out there has been as cruel to you as the voice inside your own head. Nobody. An outside enemy may hit you once and walk away, but the enemy inside follows you everywhere. It wakes up with you. It eats with you. It showers with you. It rides in the car with you. It waits for the room to go quiet so it can start talking. And when it talks, it does not just criticize you. It sentences you. It whispers things like, "You ruin everything. No one really loves you. You are a burden. You are too much. You are not enough. You should be ashamed." It acts like a judge, a prosecutor, and an executioner all at once. It does not care about context. It does not care about compassion. It does not care about truth. It takes one small mistake and turns it into proof that your entire existence is flawed. But where did that voice come from? Because here is the truth that changes everything. That voice is not the real you. You were not born hating yourself. You were not born disgusted by your own sensitivity. You were not born with that tone in your head. That voice is a recording, a collection of old wounds, old rejections, old shame, old disappointment. It is a stitched-together soundtrack made from criticism, withdrawal, punishment, disapproval, humiliation, and fear. It carries the voices of parents, teachers, classmates, authority figures, ex-lovers, bullies, and a culture that taught you your worth had to be earned. The child inside you, desperate to stay safe, learned a twisted survival strategy. It learned to attack itself first. Because if you can punish yourself before the world does, maybe the outside pain will hurt less. If you can shame yourself early, maybe rejection will not surprise you. If you can lower your own worth, maybe nobody can take it from you. So you built an armor out of self-destruction, and for a while, maybe it even felt protective. But that armor was covered in spikes facing inward. Every movement hurt you. Every thought cut you. Every attempt to protect yourself became another act of violence against yourself. That is why the inner critic is so dangerous. Not because it is loud, but because it is familiar. It has lived with you so long that it started sounding like your own voice. It convinced you that it is you, that its thoughts are facts, that its cruelty is honesty, that its abuse is just being realistic. No, that is the lie. You are not your thoughts. You are not that vicious voice. You are not the mental storm ripping through you at 2 a.m. You are the one who notices it. You are the awareness underneath it. You are the sky. The thoughts are weather. And the sky does not become damaged just because dark clouds move through it. Let that sink in. The storm is happening inside your mind, but it is not your identity. That realization does not make the demon disappear instantly, but it does open the door to the one move that can change everything. Now we get to the weapon. Not fake affirmation, not pretending everything is fine, not standing in front of a mirror, forcing yourself to say, "I'm amazing, I'm worthy, I'm perfect," while some deeper part of you rolls its eyes because it knows you are just trying to cover pain with glitter. Your mind is too smart for cheap lies. The weapon I want to put in your hands is this: mindful detachment. This is psychological warfare at a higher level. You do not win by wrestling every thought. You do not win by screaming back at your mind. You do not win by trying to kill every dark feeling the second it appears. You win by stepping back, by refusing to merge with the noise, by becoming the observer instead of the hostage. So the next time your mind says, "You are worthless," do not jump straight into defense mode. Do not argue. Do not collapse. Do not obey. Pause and say calmly, "Interesting. I am noticing the thought that I'm worthless." That small shift changes everything, because now the thought is no longer the truth. It is an event, a mental event, something your brain produced. That is all. Notice the difference between these two statements. "I am worthless" versus "I am noticing that my mind is producing the thought that I am worthless." The first one traps you inside the prison. The second one puts space between you and the prison bars. That space is power. That space is freedom. That space is where your life starts to come back. At first, this will feel unnatural, even weak. Your mind will hate it. It is used to drama. It is used to instant identification. It is used to grabbing you by the throat and dragging you into the same old spiral. So, when you stop feeding it like that, it may get louder for a while. Let it. It may tighten your chest. Let it. It may flood you with emotion. Let it. It may replay every humiliating memory it has stored away. Let it. Your job is not to stop the storm. Your job is to stop becoming the storm. Sit back and observe. Watch your mind like a scientist studies bacteria through glass. Cold, clear, unhooked, no panique, no worship, no obedience, just observation. There is shame. There is fear. There is the old thought that I am not enough. There is my mind replaying that moment again. Do you see how different that is? You are no longer drowning in the thought. You are standing on the shore watching the wave rise and fall. And once you stop pouring attention, panic, and identification into it, something incredible happens. It starts losing strength, because thoughts need fuel. And one of their favorite fuels is your total belief in them. The inner critic survives by making you react. It survives by making you identify. It survives by convincing you to rehearse its script over and over. But when it speaks and you simply notice it without kneeling to it, the supply line gets cut. This is the gap that changes human lives. Between what happens and how you respond, there is a space. A tiny space, sometimes no more than a split second. That space is where your freedom lives. Most people never use it. They react instantly. They get triggered, and then they obey the trigger. They feel hurt, so they become the hurt. They hear the criticism, so they become the criticism. But you do not have to. You can feel the emotional surge and still choose not to hand it the throne. You cannot stop birds from flying over your head. but you can absolutely stop them from building a nest in your hair. That is the art of detachment. Not numbness, not denial, not repression. Detachment, a conscious refusal to let every passing thought become your identity. And if the voice in your head has exhausted you too, comment 1 below. Not because a comment magically fixes your life, but because naming your fight is the first step to no longer being owned by it. The more you practice this, the weaker the inner judge becomes. Not because you destroyed it with force, but because you stopped feeding it your life. Silence becomes your blade, observation becomes your shield, and your refusal to merge with the lie becomes the coldest, cleanest act of self-liberation you have ever known. Once you see through the illusion outside and disarm the enemy within, something powerful starts to happen. Your real shape begins to return. Now let's go back to the sensitivity you used to hate so much. Without self-contempt wrapped around it, that sensitivity stops being a curse. It becomes a gift. A powerful one. Yes, you feel things deeply, but that also means you can love deeply. You can empathize deeply. You can read people, read energy, and notice what others miss. You can sense falseness. You can feel beauty with a level of intensity that shallow people may never understand. You can pick up danger sooner. You can detect emotional shifts sooner. You can catch what is real and what is performative. That is not weakness. That is precision. That is a radar system. The problem was never your radar. The problem was that you had no walls around the kingdom it was trying to protect. And that has to change. You need boundaries. Real owns. Not soft boundaries. Not boundaries that collapse the second someone gets disappointed. Not boundaries you apologize for. Steel boundaries. Titanium boundaries. The kind that say, I can be kind without being available for abuse. The kind that say, I do not need everyone to understand me. The kind that say, no, without attaching a speech after it. Because a free person is not someone who never gets hit by life. A free person is someone who no longer leaves the gates open for every piece of garbage to walk inside. So you begin to change. You stop over-explaining. You stop begging to be seen fairly by people who already decided not to see you clearly. You stop trying to win over people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop treating every negative reaction like evidence that you did something wrong. You say no, clearly, directly, without apology. You pull your happiness out of other people's hands and put it back where it belongs. With you, you accept something that is painful, but freeing. Some people will dislike you. Some will misread you. Some will project onto you. Some will betray you. Some will decide who you are without ever knowing you. And none of that has the authority to define your worth unless you hand them that authority. If you are learning how to choose yourself instead of performing for everyone else, comment 1 below, because that shift matters. And once it happens, the nights begin to change. You no longer lie awake at 2 a.m. waiting for ghosts to judge you. And if you do wake up, you wake up differently. You wake up as someone rebuilding their own kingdom. Someone who has learned to sit beside their pain without becoming it. Someone who has stopped worshipping the opinions of the shallow. Someone who understands that peace is not given, it is defended. Will you still have hard days? Yes. Will you still get triggered sometimes? Of course. Will there be nights where the old voice tries to come back and drag you into the same old darkness? Absolutely. But once the seed of awareness has been planted, things are never the same again, because now you know what is happening. Now you recognize the trick. Now you know the voice is not the king. You are. So stand up, brush the dust of shame off your shoulders, look straight into the dark, and say, with the quiet authority of someone who finally came home to themselves, from this moment on, my mind is no longer enemy territory. I am the one who rules here. The greatest transformation a person can ever go through is not conquering the world outside. It is returning home and breaking the chains inside their own mind. That sensitivity you once saw as your weakness, the thing that made you bleed under every glance and every judgment, can become your shield and your blade once it passes through the fire of conscious detachment. You were never born to be a rough draft for other people to edit. You are not your old wounds. You are not the crowd's opinion. And you are definitely not the toxic voice echoing through your head. The moment you stop identifying with every ugly thought, the inner judge starts starving. The throne of your mind was never meant to stay empty. It was always meant for you. And real power does not come from forcing the world to approve of you. It comes from the absolute freedom of no longer being controlled by what they think. That is the crown. That is the shift. That is the freedom. And it starts in the smallest space of all. The space between what hits you and how you choose to respond. You are the observer, not the thought. Attachment is the prison. Detachment is the key. So start small. Use the 3-second pause. The next time criticism hits, or the old self-hating voice rises, do not instantly believe it. Pause for 3 seconds, take one deep breath, and tell yourself, this is just information. This is just a thought. It is not the truth of who I am. Change the language, and you change the outcome. Instead of saying, I'm useless, train your mind to say, I notice that my mind is producing the thought that I'm useless. That single phrase moves you out of the victim's chair and into the seat of awareness. Practice real boundaries. Start with the small moments. Decline the unreasonable request. Ignore the unnecessary negativity. Do not explain what does not need explaining. Protect your mental space like it actually matters, because it does. Let feelings move through. When sadness, shame, or humiliation rises, let your body feel it without turning it into a story. Do not wrestle with it. Do not build a whole identity around it. Let it pass through like weather. When emotions are not fed by obsession, they fade. And now I want to ask you something. When that inner critic starts talking, what do you usually do to calm yourself down and get your power back? Stay for a second and share it in the comments. Your story might help someone else realize they are not alone in this fight. And if this video hits something real in you, subscribe today. Your support helps this channel keep creating sharper, deeper, more honest videos that help people heal, wake up, and take their lives back.